Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
If you haven't filled up your tank lately, you could be in for some sticker shock. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. According to Auto Club of Southern California, gas prices are rising at a near record pace. KPBS video journalist Jacob Ayer and reporter Melissa May went to find out why.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
The average price for self-serve regular gasoline in San Diego is $5.99. That's over $2 more than the national average. But Californians are always going to pay more, says the Auto Club.
The main reason is we have very high taxes and fees in California on gasoline, but also consumption of gasoline and diesel in California is pretty high as well. You know, we have a lot more cars in California than any other state, so people consume a lot more gas here in California.
At this point, some San Diegans are on the hunt for cheaper gas prices.
I passed like 6 gas stations on the way here, and I checked every single one. And there was like a 720, there was like a 699, there was like a 6 something, and then I finally came here and it was the cheapest.
The price per gallon jumped a whopping 39 cents since last week, 66 cents since last month, and 51 cents higher than last year.
So I do feel like I'm being ripped off. In fact, I actually went to a Chevron where it's even more expensive, and just got a gallon there to come over here because I know it'd be cheaper.
Vista resident Joseph Preet says the gas prices have started to affect his family. He says his sister and niece may move back to Texas, and the cost of gas is one of the main drivers of that.
My mom would have liked to spend more time with her grandchild, and I would have loved to have been closer to her, but suffice it to say, if that's the decision they need to make, then that's what they have to do.
The Auto Club's Ann Jane Venegas says by the end of October, gas prices should decrease because California switches from the summer blend to the winter blend of gasoline.
Summer blend gasoline burns more cleanly in hotter temperatures and is just more expensive to produce. And the winter blend gasoline that we use costs less to produce and also to distribute. So we're going to be paying around 30 cents a gallon less.
The Auto Club recommends shop around for cheaper gas, reduce use of air conditioning, take out heavy items in your car, and avoid hard accelerations if you can to help reduce your gas consumption. Melissa May, KPBS News.
It's a little breezy and a little cool as we kick off the forecast here. Tonight, temperatures will drop down into the mid-50s in Ramona, Escondido around 58, 65 into the big city of San Diego. And then farther east, Campo down to cool 47. We will be dealing with a little bit of a gradual warming trend, not fully back to average on Friday, but we're going to take a step in that direction. Still very pleasant weather across most of the western U.S. But beyond that, we're going to talk about the return of the warmth in just a little bit, so stick with us.
With thousands of migrants crossing the border into the U.S., resources are being stretched thin. Ivan Rodriguez reports on troops being deployed to help.
A state of emergency is declared by the mayor in Eagle Pass, Texas, as the surge of migrants crossing the border continues. Also, in response to the surge, the Defense Department is deploying more than 800 new active duty personnel to the U.S.-Mexico border. Around 2,700 migrants crossed into the U.S. near Eagle Pass on Tuesday, while another 3,000 migrants crossed on Wednesday. Many migrants trekking a dangerous path.
What we consider to be a humanitarian crisis is what the people endure on the journey to the border in the hands of smugglers. We see so much trauma, so much tragedy.
Some people are drowning. Some people are dying in some of those ranches. If we find bodies or bones, whatever. So why take a risk? Why make those people come like this?
The Biden administration is providing humanitarian relief for Venezuelans by issuing more work permits.
We can't spike the ball, but we appreciate that 15,000 migrant asylum seekers are now something that we can look towards moving out of our care.
In the meantime, U.S. Customs and Border Protection is temporarily suspending traffic at the Texas border crossing to help the U.S. Border Patrol take migrants into custody.
It's something very strange. Never thought I was going to see something like that in Eagle Pass.
I'm Ivan Rodriguez for KPBS News.
In San Diego County, local leaders are asking for federal help with the recent influx of migrants here. At last check, over 3,000 migrants have been dropped off at county transit centers. County Supervisor Jim Desmond has been vocal about the releases in recent days, asking President Biden or DHS to send help. And Supervisor Chair Nora Vargas says she somewhat agrees with him.
These are folks that are here legally, right? They've sought asylum, and so they should be treated with dignity and respect. We want to make sure that they have the healthcare access that they need.
And until that help comes, both supervisors say they will continue to rely and work with nonprofits guiding migrants to their destinations. Today marks 1 week since the auto workers' strike began. In the past 48 hours, talks have resumed between the union and companies. But as Laura Aguirre reports, a deadline is approaching quickly.
If we have to strike more, close more, then we'll do that.
The United Auto Workers Union says their walkouts will expand if the nation's 3 largest automakers don't give them a better contract proposal by noon Friday.
I would like to see fair wages for everybody. I would say most of these employees probably live paycheck to paycheck.
Higher wages, 40% higher over 4 years, one of several union demands. The UAW is currently striking at 3 plants, representing each of the big 3 U.S. auto brands. But the threat of Friday's deadline is already having ripple effects. Stellantis, which is meeting with UAW leadership Thursday, is temporarily laying off some non-union workers at their Toledo, Ohio machining plant. GM and Ford are doing the same at some of their other facilities. Those on the picket lines know it's not just auto workers feeling the impact.
I would like to see us get back to work so those other suppliers get back to work and uplift this economy.
The strike fallout also hitting auto industry suppliers. U.S. Steel in Granite City, Illinois laid off several hundred workers this week.
I've had grown men crying in my office that don't know how they're going to provide for their families. It's very difficult. And I know it's business to them, but it's personal to us.
For now, those business talks continue as the deadline clock keeps ticking. I'm Laura Aguirre for KPBS News.
And here in San Diego, members of the UAW 4123 rallied on the campus of San Diego State this morning. Although it's the same union, these local protesters have demands tied to their university jobs. KPBS education reporter MG Perez tells us what they want.
We want a fair contract now! Emily Valella doesn't hold back. She and her fellow union members are academic workers here at San Diego State University. Valella is a tutor for SDSU athletes.
Without us, their athletes would not excel academically and their reputation would crumble.
Every year, San Diego State's athletic department produces tens of millions of dollars in revenue for the university. No matter the sport, there are tutors who make just $16.20 an hour to support them.
The athletics department is the cash cow of the CSU, the SDSU. They bring in a lot of money, and despite that, the CSU still refuses to meet our demands at the bargaining table.
What do we want? Fair contract!
When do we want it? Now! There are also teaching, graduate, and instructional support assistants making less than minimum wage. 10,000 of them are unionized through the United Auto Workers here and at the other 22 CSU campuses across the state. Negotiations with the school system administration have been stalled since May, so the workers continue to rally for paid leave, free tuition, and affordable housing. They have support from many of their professors.
We know how much it costs to live in San Diego. We know how much it costs just to make ends meet. Inflation is not going to be covered by a 4% increase.
A 4% pay increase is the only offer CSU has made. These academic workers are members of the UAW. What do cars and academics have in common? It turns out a lot.
we're the ones creating the actual tangible goods, whether that be teaching the material or creating car parts. So our struggle is their struggle against the owners.
We can see your greedy side. CSU, you can't hide.
The rally rolled up to the front door of the office of San Diego State President Adela de la Torre just before noon. De la Torre's chief of staff had this to say.
I just want to be here to make sure that we're hearing the students, supporting them, and then seeing what we can do to make sure that we're advocating with the system.
Will the president be making any kind of statement?
No, she's not on campus today. We didn't know until this morning, but we wanted to make sure we were coming out and being supportive.
These student union members made sure to deliver an earful. MG Perez, KPBS News.
The CSU sent KPBS a statement saying it would continue to work with UAW toward an outcome that is agreeable for both parties as soon as possible. A positive update in the Hollywood writers' strike. Negotiations between studios and screenwriters resumed for the second day in a row today. CEOs for Disney, Warner Brothers, Discovery, Universal, and Netflix were all in attendance. Writers have been on strike for more than 4 months now.
I'm Amna Nawaz. On the next news hour, David Brooks and Jonathan Capehart give their take on the looming government shutdown. That's Friday on the PBS NewsHour.
The threat of a potential government shutdown is still looming, and that means the clock is ticking for the Senate to confirm military promotions. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer moved to have 3 key promotions voted on separately to break a weeks-long backlog. Today, General Randy George was confirmed as Army Chief of Staff and General Eric Smith as the new Commandant of the Marine Corps. Here's John Lawrence with more on a 3rd promotion.
And the nomination is confirmed.
Better late than never.
Under the previous order, the motion to reconsider is made and laid upon the table, and the President will be immediately notified of the Senate's actions.
The Senate confirms the nomination of General C.Q. Brown as the next chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Wednesday night's vote came after a months-long stalemate that held up hundreds of military promotions led by Alabama Senator and former college football coach Tommy Tuberville.
Well, we finally came to a little bit of conclusion, but it's about time. We should have done these a long time ago.
Tuberville has been holding up votes over his opposition to a Defense Department policy reimbursing travel costs for service members who would go across state lines to seek an abortion. In order to get the ball rolling, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer moved to have 3 positions, including General Brown's, voted on separately from the block opposed by Tuberville.
If everyone objected to everything to get leverage for their pet priorities, it will grind this body to a halt.
Brown's confirmation passed by a vote of 83 to 11. The no votes came from Tuberville and 10 other Republican senators, including Josh Hawley of Missouri, Marco Rubio of Florida, and Ted Cruz of Texas. I'm John Lawrence reporting.
Governor Newsom is issuing an executive order to strengthen California's insurance market. Following recent climate disasters, some insurers announced they would limit renewals and stop issuing new policies in the state. In the order signed today, Newsom is calling on the insurance commissioner to take actions to protect homeowners. And those include expanding coverage options for consumers, improving transparency of the approval process, and working with the Department of Finance to implement potential regulations faster. Rents in Tijuana are rising twice as fast as in San Diego. KPBS border reporter Gustavo Solis looks into what is driving this trend.
Let's go ahead and check it out. If you're looking for a place to rent in Tijuana, Gustavo Chacon is your man. He's a realtor with decades of experience. Most of his clients come from the U.S., all of them looking for cheap rent in Mexico. Here he is, walking us through a brand new housing development in the Santa Fe neighborhood of Tijuana.
And this is a completely gated community. And this is a 2-bedroom, living, dining room, 1.5 baths, and 1 parking area.
All for just $850 a month. This place is 45 minutes from the border, but don't forget about the amenities.
They have the 2 stores, they have small plazas, they have parks, they have for basketball, for football, soccer. They also have a community center.
Median rent in San Diego is about $3,300 a month right now, according to Zillow. And that's pushing some people to migrate south to Tijuana. Atenea de la Cruz Brito is a researcher who studies why.
Son commuters, son personas que se mueven continuamente a su área de trabajo, es decir, no trabajan ni en Rosarito o en Tijuana, sino en Estados Unidos.
She says most of the people moving to Tijuana are commuters who still work in San Diego. And this influx of cross-border commuters is pushing Tijuana rents higher and higher.
Tijuana tiene ahora a la cabeza de los aumentos con un casi 70% de aumento en las rentas declaradas.
De la Cruz Brito says that rents in Tijuana increased by 63% between 2016 and 2022. That's more than double of the 30% that San Diego saw during the same time period. The Tijuana realtor, Chacon, gets calls from San Diegans looking to move to Mexico almost every day. Most of them are looking to pay about $500 to $600 a month for a house that's close to the border.
And to be truthful, there's not a lot of options.
At least not for that price and at that location.
If you're trying to get something closer to downtown, something closer to the Rio area, something closer to the border, they're going to go from 800 and up.
I look back at it now, I knew virtually no Spanish.
Michael Hodge moved to Tijuana from San Diego 3 years ago. Growing up in the Midwest, he never expected to live in Mexico.
I've been to Tijuana like maybe twice ever.
Now, people ask him for advice, especially about public safety issues.
You know, the common question I get is, do you feel safe there? Is it okay? Is it all right? And, you know, I just tell them, it's just like any other city. You know, if you act like a fool and make a spectacle of yourself and be disrespectful, or, you know, it's not that hard to find trouble.
Before moving to Tijuana, Hodge lived in a 2-bedroom apartment in Normal Heights, and he split the $2,500 a month rent with a roommate. When he moved to Tijuana with some coworkers, his share of the rent was only $300 a month. Yes, there are obvious savings in Tijuana, but also significant drawbacks.
I think, you know, moving to Tijuana can definitely be an option, but I don't want them to think that everything's going to be perfect. It's not going to solve all your problems.
And the main problem is
traffic. It's ridiculous. Excuse me, but it's ridiculous.
Robert Martinez is a school bus driver in San Diego. His day begins way before the crack of dawn.
Usually I wake up between 3 and 3:30 in order to get ready, get my things ready. And by 4 o'clock, I'm out of my house and get in line. And hopefully I can make it here on time.
Martinez says the traffic in Tijuana gets worse every year. And experts like De La Cruz Brito agree. She says new construction and lack of investment in public infrastructure is causing even more traffic.
Compraron porque creían que vivían a 15 minutos de la línea, 20 minutos de la línea. Eso se convertirá en horas más las horas propias de la fila, ¿no?
For Martinez, Tijuana's horrible commutes are the real price of affordable housing in Mexico. Still, he has no plans of moving back to San Diego.
I don't regret it at all. Not at all. What I save, I use for my vacation twice a year.
Martinez and Hodge both have a special pass that grant them access to a fast vehicle border lane. Without it, both of them said living in Tijuana would be impossible. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
A major construction project in San Marcos is nearing completion. The city today closed the last stretch of Via Veracruz for crews to install much-needed infrastructure. As KPBS North County reporter Alexander Wynn shows us, the 3-year-long project is having a major impact on residents and businesses.
Tim Lyon's front yard used to be landscaped with rows of trees and a manicured lawn. Now it looks like this. He's lived at this home on Discovery Street by Via Veracruz for more than 11 years. Crews have been digging trenches by his house to install a retaining wall.
When they did all of that they drained, because they had exposed the foundation wall of my
garage.
The San Marcos Creek project has been going on for more than 3 years. For residents and businesses near the creek, construction fatigue is an understatement. For Ruth Serran, it's affected her business. Her family owns Submarine Sandwich Shop at the other end of Via Veracruz by San Marcos Boulevard.
It has been affecting our customers from coming to the neighborhood behind us. It was supposed to take only a certain amount of time, and it's taking longer.
The project was supposed to be completed this past spring, but construction is still going on. And the last leg of the project is going to affect businesses at Via Marco Plaza and Galleria Veracruz the most. This stretch of Via Veracruz was open for customers to access these businesses. Today, the city closed it so crews can finish construction on the Via Veracruz bridge. Isaac Echemendi is the project engineer for the city of San Marcos. He understands residents' frustration. He says part of the delays stem from the rain we had this winter.
We're in the last few months of construction on the project as a whole. This is one of the last things that will be getting done along with discovery. Over the next few months, there's still going to be ongoing construction and habitat restoration. We are in the final throes of it.
But that's not fast enough for Lyons. He's selling his home and is having trouble finding buyers because of the construction.
Everybody else has been more or less fixed. And I'm here.
Construction is expected to last until the end of the year. Echemendi says, despite the delays, the project is still on budget at $114 million. Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
County health officials are reminding everyone to protect themselves from mosquitoes, and this is after mosquitoes collected from Los Penasquitos Lagoon near Torrey Pines tested positive for West Nile virus. It's the first sign of the disease in the insects this year. Dumping outstanding water around homes is one way to help prevent mosquito breeding, and make sure to report dead birds to vector control.
Well, we have a pretty decent forecast in terms of comfort as we're breezy but cool to begin the forecast. The warmth will be gradually returning. It'll be getting hot once again in the interior this weekend and pleasantly warm, relatively close to the coast. And while there is a bit of a breeze, there's still limited fire danger. But at this point, we're not dealing with any extreme fire danger, thankfully. We're not done with fire season, though, until we get into the winter months and the rains arrive, and we're certainly not there yet. Tonight, down to 65, mostly cloudy skies along the coast, and it'll be a beautiful, beautiful Friday. Clouds giving way to some sunshine into the afternoon, and it will be a little breezy, but the worst of the breeze will kick off to the east into the Four Corners region. Friday's highs 76 in El Cajon, 73 into San Diego. Mount Laguna 61, Borrego Springs, one of the hot spots, but 90 degrees. That's manageable compared to what we sometimes face in places like Borrego Springs. Saturday, you can see the warmth begins to really overwhelm most of the southwest, but it won't be scorching. It'll just be a gradual return back to the more typical heat after this recent cool down. So let's take a look at those 5-day forecasts into the coastal areas. We're going from 73 Friday to about 76 by Sunday afternoon. We're going to hover at 76 Monday. A nice setup, more clouds in the morning, more sunshine in the afternoon. Inland areas, we're looking at a high of 75 Friday, but we're going to surge about 5 degrees warmer Saturday and Sunday. Pleasantly warm, really a nice time of the year to be in SoCal. Highs around 80 degrees, and a good deal of sunshine will win out. Into the mountains we go, and here it's a very modest rise to the mid-60s. Sunshine, but cool. It'll become decreasingly windy, so a little breezy to start. Friday still a bit breezy, but it'll become less windy for Sunday and Monday. And into the deserts, here we do have a bit of a surge, not to triple digits, but we're going to rise from 90 on Friday to 97 come Monday. It'll be manageable heat compared to what we sometimes face. I'm meteorologist Jeff Cornish for KPBS News.
The skies over San Diego will roar this weekend with the return of the Miramar Air Show. KPBS military reporter Andrew Dyer got an early look today at what to expect.
The Navy's Blue Angels flight team is back in San Diego for the annual Miramar Air Show. Starting Friday and running through Sunday, the skies over Marine Corps Air Station Miramar will be teeming with fighters, aerobatic planes, and the rarely seen U-2 spy plane. The base's commander, Colonel Marty Bedell, says this mix of aircraft makes the Miramar Air Show, rebranded this year as America's Air Show, unique.
The Miramar Air Show is the largest air show in DoD, and just in terms of scale and diversity of aircraft here. We have civilian performers. We have military performers from all of the services. So the ability to see just about everything in the aviation world, it's all right here, including our ground combat element.
The FA-18s of the Blue Angels, the headliners of the show, perform tight maneuvers in close proximity to one another, sometimes almost wingtip to wingtip. Commander Alex Armatos is the commander and lead pilot of the Blue Angels. He says it takes months of rehearsal before the team hits the road for the air show circuit.
We start out every season in early November. We spend 2 months in Pensacola, Florida, which is our home station, practicing, and then we'll go out to El Centro, California, here in Southern California, just east of here, in fact, to fly for about 2.5 months.
The air show is free and open to the public. Bedell says sunscreen and water are recommended, but backpacks and coolers aren't allowed. The Marines expect at least 100,000 people to attend this year's show. Andrew Dyer, KPBS News.
And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. NPR's Morning Edition has a one-on-one interview with Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky as he wraps up his visit to the U.S. to gain more support for his country. And KPBS Roundtable is talking about a busy week of news at the U.S.-Mexico border, and that airs at noon Friday on KPBS FM. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.